just agree as like a culture now that Edison was an asshole? Alright, welcome to my review of Doctor Who Series 12, Episode 4, Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror. First off, I gotta say, that title, fantastic. It really gets me in the mood for like, yeah, this is gonna be a fun adventure romp. And I gotta say, this episode is a marked improvement over the last episode, Orphan 55. While this one doesn't necessarily elevate to like one of the greatest episodes or most memorable episodes of all time, it was really, really solid. I had a lot of fun with it. And first thing I'm gonna start off with is I really love this look at Nikola Tesla versus Edison. Tesla's one of those people that, especially when you're younger, you don't really hear much about in school or learn much about him. And he is honestly one of the most fascinating historical figures throughout time. And I'm really glad that as time has gone on, we've started to understand how much of an asshole Edison was as just a culture, and really how important Tesla's ideas were. I think my first real pop culture introduction to Tesla was through the Prestige film, where he was played by the phenomenal David Bowie in that picture. But here, the actor they got to play Tesla was really, really fun. He had that sense of like whimsy and intrigue, but also kind of like had this grounded like, I am an inventor type. And I really just liked this look at how he was sort of really beaten down by time and by Edison, who just kept stealing his ideas and ran this smear campaign against him. I mean, honestly, if anything, this episode kind of softened Edison a little bit. Edison was an absolute jerk towards Tesla and anybody who basically he saw as a competitor. He would like send people to destroy their equipment. So if anything, Edison just being portrayed as just, I only care about money, is a softening of that guy, because he was honestly terrible. But for the purposes of this being a family show and sort of being an introduction to history and history that kids may not learn, I thought that that was fantastic. I mean, Doctor Who is a show that started off as being like, let's teach kids about history. And I think this is a great spot because I think a lot of adults may not know too much about Tesla. So it was just a really well-chosen adventure romp. And I really just liked the juxtaposition of those two characters throughout the episode. And I will say, one of the things that I thought was phenomenal that I really am glad that they dug into here was the Doctor's sort of relationship to both Nikola Tesla, especially Tesla, and a little bit to Edison as inventors. Because one of the first things they set up with this version of the Doctor, with Jodie Whittaker's Doctor, was that she was an inventor. The first episode had her like building her own sonic screwdriver, and I'm glad that that came up and really kind of like deepened her character in that sense. Like, this version of the Doctor is an inventor type. And while we've certainly seen bits and pieces of that in other Doctors, I'm really glad that they're drawing that thematic thread and character thread out for her character. And it was just a really wonderful job doing that, and wonderful like scenes between Jodie and Nikola Tesla throughout the episode, just kind of finding that connection. It was just a really beautiful way to just get us invested more in this version of the Doctor, and just get us to see little bits and pieces of what make her unique. And other than that, you don't really get much for Yaz, Ryan, and Graham. They all get some fun lines. I think Yaz actually gets some fun things to do with Tesla when they're beamed up to the alien ship. But overall, the companions here are just along for the ride, which is fine. Last episode, they got a lot of really good character stuff. Even though Orphan 55 wasn't great, it's fine to sort of let the Doctor be sort of the main impetus of this episode, and I'm cool with that. Though we still need to get more stuff for Yaz, but that's another point to make overall. Considering I mentioned the aliens, I thought that they were very functional in this episode. They didn't really do anything crazy for me. I know a lot of people thought that this alien design, when we saw it in the trailer, that they were going to be the return of the Rachnos and the Rachnos Queen, which didn't turn out to be the case, even they looked very, very similar, and they kind of had the alien bug thing. I mean, they basically were the Rachnos, just like a different kind of like scavenger mindset in them. And I thought that that was, while the aliens were just kind of like, yeah, we're here to do evil stuff, I did like at least that thematically they worked very well. They were an alien race that kind of mirrored Edison, sort of like feeding off the ideas of more inventive, creative men, and sort of that dichotomy that Edison was just this guy who paid other people to do his work and was just a capitalist monster. So I kind of liked that you kind of placed that thematically onto the aliens as well, and the aliens doing the same thing to Tesla that Edison was doing to Tesla, and just sort of glomming on to his genius. Other than that, though, they were just functional villains. They didn't really scare me or creep me out. The design was cool, if not particularly stellar or inventive. I mean, again, they were very iterative of the Rachnos way back in Doctor Who, I think series 1, I think it was the very first episode. I might be misremembering that. I think it was the very first episode of Doctor Who. So yeah, so it was kind of blah villainy. They were functional. They didn't knock my socks off, but thematically, I thought they were used very well here. And some other good notes too. I really liked that when the aliens mentioned, like, have you seen a dead planet? That we kind of get that subtle reminder, that subtle thematic thread of the timeless child and the fact that Gallifrey has been destroyed, but it didn't need to, like, bonk us on the head with that. I mean, like, last episode probably would have just said, like, yes, I've seen Gallifrey Falls, but here it was, like, a little subtle reference that we sort of can pull out the Doctor's sort of character motivation and her depth of feeling in that scene. And I also really like Tesla getting the moment of being sort of like, oh wow, look at the TARDIS when he entered the TARDIS. We'd even had characters enter the TARDIS before that point. We didn't get that normal like, oh wow, it's bigger on the inside, but they saved that for when Tesla came in. And I just thought that that was a brilliant ode to this man who was so inventive, really dreamed up the future, and didn't get to see the fruits of his labor or the fruits of his inventiveness get paid off in his lifetime. And I just thought that that was a nice little beat to give him. So there, overall, throughout this whole episode, there was a fun little beats and moments and character moments throughout, and I thought the ending was a lot of fun. It was very clever. Nothing really felt like it was elevated for me. Like, for example, the Master's performance in the first 2 episodes of this season, that was something that elevated it to the point where, like, wow, this is a really, really great episode of Doctor Who. This one just felt solid. I was happy with it. I will definitely put it on like my rewatch if I ever go through the series and rewatch episodes of Doctor Who and be like, yeah, this is one that I enjoyed, and just like we'll put on and like, this is a good episode. But it's not one that I'm probably gonna ever put on like my top tier list of best Doctor Who. But I'd like to hear what you thought. Did you like Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror? Or did you hate it? Or any of your other thoughts down below. And if you would like to see more reviews like this, or my Star Trek reviews, Star Trek Picard's coming up this week, so be ready for those reviews to start coming. Make sure you subscribe to this page, and if you want to help make this channel even better, don't forget to give to my Patreon page. But other than that, I'm just glad that you came and stopped by, and I hope that all of you, as always, live long and prosper. And special thanks to my commander level and above Patreons, Stefan Schuhart, Michael McGee, Boyd Earl, Law Lindley, Wellington Marcus, Munir Amlani, BBD, and Mari Nekar.